On to the 7th grade help for this. There were some questions on 145, 146. 8th grader guy, I will get back to you on this one. I don't believe that I did 7-18. But I did go over 7-18 in the review video last night, I believe. So 7th graders, I've got so far 5-145 and 5-146 as the questions that you guys had. So I will go into that. Thank you. 5-138D. Okay. 45, 46, 138. Okay, got that as well. And then 149 seems like a quick question. Okay. Oh, that's in the, yeah, that's in the closure. I'll get there in just a second for that. Okay, I'm just going to go down the list first. The first question that one of the first questions we had was for 5-138. So I assume that we're still live and hopefully still visible. I am recording this, so for those of you that are having trouble viewing the stream itself, it should be on YouTube, so you can go into a higher resolution afterward and then do that. So, okay, first question that we had was over here on 5-138, part D. So in this one, 5-138, part D was a very general sort of question. Specifically, it didn't actually give you any numbers and wanted you to basically make a statement. So if you looked at these first questions and you started with this bit that says there's 100 students in a room, 40 are boys, how do you figure out the number of girls? The idea is that you do 100 students for the total minus the 40 that you know, and then you get 60 that are girls. If you know there are 17 blue and white stripes, 9 of them are blue, the white ones you do 17 minus 9, and then you get whatever that is, which is probably 8. I don't know, it's been a long morning. When you do this, it says, okay, there's 2 types of objects, and how do you find the missing one? If you have 2 things and you want to find the missing bit, all you have to do is you take the total number of items minus the number of the first item, number of item 1, and then that is going to give you item number 2, which is whatever that would be. Okay, and all that you're doing is you're just making a general statement where if you know one, then you can find the other one. Hopefully that helps with that one. And then some of these other questions were in the next section. Okay, I've kind of got a lot of questions on this whole section, which is okay. This is not an easy section to do. So there was a little bit of question on 5-144, mostly because this is a 5D process, and so part of what you're able to do is come up with a bunch of equations for these. I personally, like I suggested before, if you can get away without using the 5D process, then do it. There are other effective ways to do that, and what you can do with this is, you know that it talks to you about number of girls and number of boys. So I know in this problem that the number of girls plus the number of boys equals a total number that they gave me, which was 156. Okay, so I know that I've got these 2 sorts of pieces of information. I know the number of girls plus the number of boys was equal to 156, and it tells you the number of girls was, which means that I could make the letter G. If you want to use G for girls, you can do that. A lot of people would like to use the letter X, which is also fine. It says the number of girls was, which is an equals word. So girls was 6 more than something. So it's going to be something plus 6. Okay. 6 more than twice the number of boys. So I'm going to write this as 2 times the number of boys. So I can come up with an expression for the girls that is 2 times boys plus 6. And my number of boys, I'll just use the letter B for boys. And then the nice thing about this sort of equation thing is you can take the expression that I was given for girls that says 2b plus 6, and instead of writing the word girls or the number of girls, I can replace it with this value of 2 boys plus 6. Okay. And we haven't solved as many of these, but as I'm learning from helping to homeschool my 6th grade niece, these problems are actually ones that they've done in the past. It just might not be as like formally shown. You can combine terms where this is 2 B's and that's a B, so together that makes 3 B's. Plus a number 6 equals 156. And you can guess and check your way through this if you would like, or you think 3 times something plus 6 makes 156. So I know that 3 times something has to be 150. If you would like the formal way of doing this, you're removing 6 from both sides. You're subtracting it away as a way of working backwards. And then 3 times something, the opposite of times is to divide away the 3. And then you find that the number of boys in the camp is 50, which means that I can use my rule for the number of girls to do 2 times 50 plus 6, which means the number of girls is equal to 106. And you can check that total, the 106 plus the 50, to make the 156 students at the camp. So this is, again, ignoring the 5D process, because I have suggested in the past that if you are able to do this without the 5D process, then I would suggest doing that. That would be fine. Okay. I see a picture of what you sent in there. I think the issue is that you did, interesting, you did 6 plus the number of girls is 2 times the number of boys. Okay. I think you just had the plus 6 in the wrong spot there. The thing that you just posted there. So the homework help that it gives you here does sort of tell you some of these, but it gives you the same concept. 2 times boys plus 6 equals girls, and then they give you an example, and then they just sort of tell you to keep doing it. But this statement, 2 times boys plus 6 is equal to girls, you can run tests on that if you would like, just to see what the total is. Real quick, the question came up again, how do I turn in my homework? You can submit a picture of it, or you can scan it, or you can type it into a Google Doc. Some combination of getting it to me that way is fine with me. 5-145 Part D is the next question that came up. I don't know whether it was people needing help on the whole part of this, or if you just wanted to do one of these, but if you recall, the pattern for the diamond problems is printed up here in your book. I don't know if I put it in the homework page. I think I did. I could have been wrong. The top is always a multiply, and the bottom is always an add, which can also be add or subtract. So if I go over these real quick, if it's something times 6 to make 0, this answer has to be 0 because 0 times 6 is 0. And then that means that 0 plus 6 is just 6 down here. Again, it's sort of weird. Part D is very strange because there are decimals involved. So if you guys did not need help on the rest of these, then I can just go over that one as well. So when you're looking at these, your goal is to figure out, okay, I know that they're not going to be nice numbers. And the way you know they're not going to be nice numbers is because of this 0.2 that's sitting at the end of it. And then you're like, okay, well, they sort of tried to trick you a little bit where you're trying to sort of do this guess and check process. I want you to look at this fact that it says 5.2. And again, there's no real easy way to guess these other than trying to get close. What's a close number to 50 would be something like 10 and 5. Because 10 times 5 is just about 50. And you're like, well, 10 plus 5 is pretty close to 15.2. It's just a little bit off. And so if you just adjust those values a little bit, you start to think, okay, well, 52 and 5.2, well, if I just did 10 times 5.2, I get 52 on there. And again, it's not an easy one to guess and check, and later on you would not be getting anything as difficult as doing these on your own with these decimals. But sort of the trick is to think, okay, well, 5.2, there was a trick with tens and it moves the decimal over, but agreed, this one was pretty hard. 5-146 was the next one that somebody had a question on. It was a multiple choice. If you think of the how do you find the average of something, I know you guys have done this in your science class. I know you've done it a little bit in mine. You haven't been doing too much of these. But what you do is if you find the average of something, the shortcut to find an average of something is to add them all together, right? Add them all. Then divide. Oh no, I'm using the horrible divide symbol because I'm lazy. By how many numbers? So like the number of values. Okay. So if I gave you three numbers, k, m, and n, and my goal is to find the average, I know I'm going to take the total of those numbers, which is k plus m plus n, and now I'm down to these three options because this is out. And then I divide them by 3 because that's a total of all of the numbers, which leaves me down here as my answer. So that was the 146 question. There's one on 48. And then the first problem in the closure has come up twice, so I am going to go over that one as well. There's two people that asked about that, so I am going to go over the 149 for sure. This one is called an order of operation. It's an order of operations problem. If you go into the homework help or into the checkpoint problems down here in your ebook, most of you have probably never clicked on this link or ever wanted to. But if you click into the homework help, it actually is going to give you order of operations help for a lot of problems, and then it actually is going to walk you through all of the steps for this original problem. And I'm happy to go over that in step-by-step detail if you'd like, but it is in the book where they've actually got a couple of examples, and then they walk you through these two original problems that we had. You're welcome to go over these if you would like when you're using the ebook instead of just using the textbook, but I will walk you through what that looks like on my end. So yes, it is just PEMDAS, but there's a couple of tricks that you have to think about as you're doing these. So again, I'm going to write PEMDAS on my screen. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write PEMDAS up there so we have it there. And then I am going to go over 5-149. Order of operations and PEMDAS mean the same thing. So in this case, there are no parentheses in this problem, so I'm going to deal with exponents first. So 2 to the third power is my exponent. Yes, Sina, I am doing 7th grade math. 2 to the third power is going to be 8 because it represents 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So now I rewrite my problem as 16 minus 8 divided by 8 plus 5. And then you have to be careful with this one because you have to go back to order of operations and realize that you're doing multiplication and division now. So you have to do the division of this 8 divided by 8 first, which gives you 1. So then you have 16 minus 1 plus 5, and so that gives you 15 plus 5 to get 20. And it is just order of operations, but it is a little bit of a challenge to make sure that you get all of these in the right order. Pun intended, or not, I don't know. We'll see. Part B over here, you start again. So go back to the beginning of PEMDAS, and my first thing has to be math inside of parentheses. Okay, math that is inside of parentheses. So specifically, this is what we're dealing with first, this -2 plus 6 part here. We're going to be dealing with that first. And so I do -2 plus 6 to give me a positive 4. And then the rest of this problem has not changed. And you might ask, why do I skip the parentheses right here? It's because there was not any math that was happening in those. I mean, technically, sure, you could take the 3/2 and write 1.5 if you really wanted to. You could write that as 1.5, but you don't have to. And I'll show you why, because now the next step is, okay, I've taken care of parentheses. Now I need to deal with anything that's like an exponent. So any little exponents there are what I need to deal with. So I need to deal with the exponents now. So this 4 squared is not 8. So anybody that's like, oh, I know 4 squared, it's 8. I know. It's not 8. It's 4 times 4, which is 16, minus, and again, all the steps. It'll help save you from making mistakes later on. The 3/2 times 14 plus 1. And then now I'm back into another part of my PEMDAS where I'm dealing with multiplication or division. And so my multiplication is this process right here. I know there's a fraction, but it's not that bad. You can just do 14 divided by 2 to get 7, times 3 is 21. So then you have 16 minus 21 plus 1, which apparently I can't write over here. Okay. So you end up with 16 minus 21 plus 1 should give you, I think, -4 is what it looks like. Okay, and it should walk you through, and you should be able to get -4 off of those. Okay. And again, your last step is always addition and subtraction. Okay. If you feel like you're still struggling with order of operations or these things, I would strongly recommend that you go into the bookwork right here, go into the checkpoint 5 section, which says order of operations, and then as you go down here, it gives you a whole bunch of problems to actually do. You may have actually seen some of these, because I think I actually copied some of these directly to one of your tests, maybe. But it'll also give you all of the answers to this so that you can check your work and make sure you know how to do it. Okay, so that's just an option for doing that. And then the last little bit that people were asking about was a closure. And let me guess, is the first problem, ooh, it's not a 5D process. It's a word problem. Okay. So I know that it says to draw a diagram to represent the situation. You can do that if you would like. However, I'm a firm believer in finding the easiest way that you want to do something and then doing it that way. The diagram that could represent this if you wanted is the percentage number line thing that we talked about for a while, where in the scale of 0 to 100%, right, his bike's total cost, right, he's trying to save a total of $60, which means that this is my total of $60. And then you're trying to figure out, well, what would the marker for 45% be? So there's a few options to do this. Like the easiest way, like the how much does he save so far, is he has saved 45%. So let's write 45% of his goal, which we had said was $60. Okay. And if you remember, there's a few things. You can't actually use percentages like this when you're doing math. You can't actually use the percentages in this math. What you have to do is you have to convert it to a decimal. So 45% converts into 0.45. And then the math word for of means to multiply. And then the 60 goes here. And when you multiply 0.45 times 60, okay, you end up getting $27 is what he has saved. So he has saved $27. How much does he still need to save? The answer to that is what's the difference there. So he still needs to save $33. And it says for the dollar amount and as a percentage, if you want to know the percent that he has to save left, he has saved 45, which means there is 55% remaining. Okay. All right, so that about covers most of these that I saw was being shared. The question came up, where do I look in YouTube to find this? The answer is if you go into the math channel, this video will get linked there. It's going to be labeled 7th grade office hours and then the date at the end of this.